think I saw this on Norm Abrams' show one time, like a lifetime ago. He had this crosscut jig, which it's incredibly simple. It's just a thin piece of plywood. It's got a board underneath that fits in your slot. The leading edge here is squared up through the table slot and the fence. There's a piece of sandpaper on here, so when you're grabbing on something, it won't slide back and forth. Because as soon as you touch that blade, it's going to want to go somewhere else. And what you do is you make this, get it all done, don't put the sandpaper on yet, grease your saw blade up and saw it off. Now it's perfectly aligned to the edge of the saw blade. You can use this as your edge of the stop. You put sandpaper on there afterwards so you don't hit your saw blade. But it's very simple, easy to do. It's just a piece of Baltic birch plywood. And then, my saw at home, I have a Formatic 66, which is a little bit different. Like that was my question on here. I made myself a fingerboard. It's adjustable. On my saw, these will slide right into the fence. We won't do it on here because they're a little different size. Yeah. So slide it on there, and you can adjust that back and forth, tighten it down. You don't have to have two boards holding it at a 45. It makes it real simple to do. And I like to use fingerboards. Also got one that
you can buy one of those now at Woodpeckers for about $300.
I know. I only got 245 for them. I've got an attachment on my fence. I got a Wiesenmeyer fence on mine, which is an angle iron, and it comes up over the fence. And I've got another one of these that I can clamp onto there. So now I can have a side fingerboard and a top fingerboard. I'll hold things in there perfectly as it goes through. That's that. I'm kind of working my way around here. One of the other things that I do is, I don't do a lot of offline anymore. I've been making fish spearing decoys for a while. And when you make a fish spearing decoy, you have to figure out a way to put the fins into it. And the fins have to go into a slot. I started out thinking, well, how am I going to do that? Some guys use an X-Acto knife and carve it in there, and I figure, well, I'll cut myself sooner or later. And then I thought, well, you know, if I get a little slotting saw, you can buy these things for milling machines, I can clamp that into the drill press and just slide the decoy into it. But there again, if that grabs, it's going to go like that and lose my finger. So what I did, I took that one little step further and did it in a router table. I bought myself a slotting cutter. Had to find one with big teeth. This particular one is a little thicker than I needed. The fin material that I used is 045 aluminum. This one was 062. I had to make myself a mandrel in the lathe, and I clamped it up, and I ran it along the grinding wheel on my drill until I had an 045 cutter. So I just kind of ground it away. It's simple, but it worked pretty good. So now you clamp this into the router, and this is the decoy before I cut everything out. I mark it. I mark the line where the fins are. And then this is my jig. This is going to go into that's how I hold it when it's in the router. Shut in there, it locks it in place. Now I can set the height of the cutter to my line. And then the cutter will drive in along these slots, and it will stop on the decoy body itself. So it's kind of polished, so it doesn't make much of a mark. And now I've got all the slots cut, all the same height. I have all my fingers, and they're always all in the same spot. So now when I go and do the rest of the decoy, the fins are in the same spot, they're always evenly spaced. Now I can make fixtures and patterns for painting that slip right over them. That's what I end up with. Let's see. Next thing I'll talk about here is bandsaw blade jig. I do a lot of work with a bandsaw. That's my favorite tool in the shop. Everybody knows you're bandsawing stuff, you hear that zick, and you went through a nail. It's like always a bad day. I'm going to $40 bandsaw blade. So what I've been doing, I was thinking about it the other day for over 40 years now. I buy my bandsaw blade in bulk in a 100-foot or 250-foot spool. You can get it on eBay if you shop around for about $1 a foot. And my bandsaw is a Grizzly 17-inch, so it takes a 11.5-foot blade. I can get this stuff for $1 a foot, so that's about a $11.5 blade. It doesn't hurt so much when you hit something. And the other thing is you can get any size, shape, thickness, tooth count blade you want. And for most things, I like using hook tooth blades. Skip tooths are going to cut smoother. I cut the aluminum fins out with a 14 tooth, 3/16 inch wide blade. Buzzes right through the aluminum, works just beautiful. So what I do is when I want to put these together, I made this jig myself out of some angle iron. The way it works is I've got a straight edge here and a gap. What I'll do is I'll take the blade and I'll lay it in there so that the overlap is right in the middle. When I use a scarf joint on here, about a 6-to-1 ratio or so, and about, because I grind it on a belt sander. But if you get a fair amount on, you get one about 1/8 of an inch of overlap. Get it in there and you set one up. Line it up just right, and you don't want them to overlap too much because you'll create a thicker blade. Now I've got that in there. What I'll do is I'll take a little bit of this silver soldered flux, and this is a boron modified flux you can get it from McMaster car. Works really good on the steel. I'll take a little piece of silver solder, about the same length as the splice in the blade. I'll lift this up, lay that piece of silver solder in there, make sure everything's straight. You heat it up with a propane torch until the silver solder flows. And you can see what happens, it just kind of goes, and it's happy, you know. Let it cool. Then I'll come back in, I'll leave it clamped up in here, and I'll use still a grinder. And this is a really handy tool to have in your shop. You can get these little discs everywhere. I think I got this flex joint at Harbor Freight. And one thing you can do with an air tool is always put a little whip hose on it. That way the heavy cutter is, or heavy coupler is sitting back here. You have less weight in your hand. I'll just come in and I'll grind it off. I'll turn it over, grind the other side off until I can feel that it's smooth and straight. I can take it out, sometimes there's a little lump in the back, I'll grind that off. We're ready to bandsaw. It's so simple. You don't have to worry about hardening and tempering the steel because when you're heating it up like that with a propane torch, the cooling is slow enough that it does not harden. More or less it just meals itself, normalizes, meals itself. So that's why I make bandsaw blades. The next is, a while back we had a talk on tenon jigs. Somebody brought in a cast iron, just a beautiful thing. Probably about $1,000 jig. And I've done a fair amount of Morse and tenon stuff in my life. I used to try and do the lay it on the table and the dado head and slide it across, turn it over, slide it across. But now you're depending on thickness, and depending on all sorts of little variables to get that in the right thickness. The other thing is to get a little bit of insight, everything's going to change. So what I did is I made my own bandsaw, or made my own tenoning jig, and it just runs on the fence. It's pretty simple. Out here, in order to get the tenon in the thickness all the time, I took 2 8-inch blades. These are just cheap old steel blades. And I ground them off. I've sharpened these a couple of times. And you put a spacer in between. And you can tune your spacers up so that you can make your spacer, this one cuts a 1/4 inch. It's basically just a piece of wood. And you can make different spacers. These 2 blades, if I don't use a spacer in them, they're actually a .165 dado if you're making small boxes. It's a nice thin dado that you put a panel into. spacer they got for that. Just make a sacrificial saw insert, put them in there. It's really easy way to make pens. Once you get it set up, every can you cut is exactly the same. The next piece I got here, this is just another stupidly simple thing. This is for my router cable. Works kind of the same way as my sled over there. It slides past the cutter head over here. And I just put a scab fence on here. See, I screwed this one on. And it was for a lock miter jig. So I was making some lock miters on that. I've also used it to make sliding dovetails for drawer fronts. That's why it's got two sides to it, so I can do left side and do the right side turn around. It's a general purpose thing, you know. You can adapt it to do whatever you want. I think that's all I got. Any questions about anything?